Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the AI is Revolutionizing Local Marketing webinar with BrandMuscle. We'll be giving everyone a couple more seconds to join. We know it's close to the hour mark, so give us a little bit. And once we have a quorum, we'll get this started.
I feel like we should play the Jeopardy music, James.
We should play the Jeopardy music.
I'll let you sing.
That's not the route you want to go.
We might have to pay royalties for that too, so let's not.
That's actually a really good point. No, I will not be doing any singing, but it actually looks like we've got a pretty good number on. Let's give it a couple more. We can get started.
Sure.
Okay, just for the sake of me not having to sing, we can go ahead and get started. So for those who weren't here just a few seconds ago, we appreciate you all joining today. Helen and I from BrandMuscle will be reviewing the how AI is revolutionizing local marketing. Just upfront, making sure that this presentation is not shared, reproduced, or distributed without our consent. So if you have questions, if you do want to reuse this with any of your internal teams, etc., just let us know. We'd be happy to talk with you through it and be able to share this content out. And just for introductions, so that you know who Helen and I are. So Helen Baptist is the Chief Strategy and Market Officer with BrandMuscle. And then you have me, James Morse, SVP of Product, but let's be honest, what you're really here for is Helen.
No, come on. We're talking about AI. This is new product. It's so exciting. Come on now.
A lot of exciting things we want to talk to you about today. So really AI is the focus, obviously, in local marketing. But with that, there's some of you who probably don't know a lot about who BrandMuscle is and what we do. So we want to give you a quick overview. And with that, I'll hand it over to Helen.
Yeah, before you switch over, can you go back to the one? I don't want to tease out who we are, but I've been at BrandMuscle for 6 months, and the world has changed in technology at the speed of lightning. And I think our CEO or CTO once said that website was at the age of what was it? The internet was years, websites was months. And SaaS was months, and now we're into AI and it's weeks or days, right? And the speed by which things are changing is like revolutionizing. And that's why we've kind of caught this topic on. And for me, particularly as somebody who worries about how to do better marketing, this is a all-encompassing presentation, not just about local marketing, but corporate marketing and other things. But I think, to your point, James, I don't think a lot of people really know who we are and who we serve as our client base. And I think that, when I walked in 6 months ago, I didn't understand it. And I was familiar with BrandMuscle in my prior lives. But I think the complexities of the companies that we serve, whether that's in the beverage alcohol space, and by which the rules of the law of the land and or the state and or the county and or the assets that are used, etc., and the organizations like Discus and WSWA and responsibility.org manage, making sure that we are putting the best foot forward of beverage alcohol to Americans, for lack of a better word, right? Because that's the market we serve. But then on the other side, our Fortune 1000 customers that we have, where we do marketing services for them, they are very much highly regulated and compliant organizations. And I think when you take those considerations into play around who BrandMuscle is, I think this story becomes much more relevant, right? So we are an integrated local marketing platform that provides and enables marketers and their partners. And we use the word partners because when you think about us, we're kind of double-sided, like a push me, pull you animal from Dr. Dolittle. And we help them with solutions and insights and expertise to deliver at the local level. And so I think of this as Main Street America, where you'll be walking along the street and you can see a bar or a restaurant. You can see an Edward Jones or an Allstate location. You can see Charles Schwab, whoever it is, right? And those are SMB, small business owners that are flying the flag of a corporate brand. And so those are the companies that we help. We simplify and scale digital and physical marketing, and that includes print and direct marketing and fulfillment and all those things that those people need to run their shop and market their business. and we help them acquire, so drive leads. I think that's the common phrase that we see here on the Fortune 1000. But retaining those customers as well. So when you get invited to, a dinner by a financial planner at Ruth's Chris restaurant, which we help support, that's the kind of stuff that we do to help them grow their business. The real crux of it, though, is that there are challenges for those people. And even from a corporate perspective, right, there's this channel proliferation, and I think AI just compounds it even more in terms of what is the right thing to do and how quickly can I update things and where do I optimize as much as possible. And invariably, those people are small business owners, so they're worried about whether they've got water to serve their guests when they come into their storefront as an insurance broker, or they're worried about how they're spending their money, or they're using the wrong people to do those things, right? They're getting their cousin or their nephew or somebody to do their Facebook posts, and that may not be in the best compliance of the brand that they are affiliated with. And then they have these things called co-op funds or billbacks in the beverage alcohol space, and managing the rules of those are important. So things like buying golf balls for your buddies may be reimbursed at only 25%, whereas doing an invitation for a special event or sponsoring a local football high school club might be reimbursed at 100%. Those rules and variations of those things are all of the challenges that we help solve for. And that's done both on the corporate side and on the affiliate side. And so the way that we think about affiliates, that could be independent dealers, brokers, retailers, restaurants, the whole thing is kind of franchisees. Those are the affiliates that we talk about. So on the right-hand side, you'll see that we have 6 solutions that we offer. There's lots of tactical things underneath those, but from the way that we engage the affiliates, right? We've got incentives and spiffs and direct marketing that we're doing for to the affiliates on behalf of corporate. We offer a lot of print solutions, whether you want point of sale, whether you want business materials, or whether you want direct marketing, we can do those things. We have best-in-class integration. So if you have a provider that you want to bring to the table, like a digital asset management platform, we will have helped you do that. Whether you want single sign-off through OAuth and all those other words that technologists like to use, but they're not my favorite words. Those are kinds of the solutions that we offer from the corporate side. And on the affiliate side, this is about helping them market locally in their trading area. And I think that that's a very different motion than most of the big agencies play, where they're doing national buys on behalf of corporate, or they're doing DMA or regional buys. We are dealing with the individual owner of that affiliate. So it could be Helen Baptist Insurance or James Morse Insurance in Cleveland, and then we're building the right plans for them to drive leads through paid media events and so on and so forth, helping them do better marketing. So we bring 3 major core values to the organizations, helping them get smarter about their marketing and being better at it. Managing for brand compliance. So you can imagine that Allstate's logo is in a special font and a special logo, but then there's other things like, what are the terms and conditions of the insurance that that agent might be selling? What are they licensed to do in what state? And what is the hierarchy of that independent agent up to the organization? So the rules of those compliance, as we call it, are complex, and so we're helping them manage to that complexity of brand and co-op deployment. So with that quick overview, that's how I'd tell the story to my mom, by the way. So if I got it wrong, let me know, James, but you've been here a lot longer than me, so I'm going to throw it over to you, and you can say, yes, Helen, good job, or Helen, I think I want to add on 1 or 2 more things. Come on, I'll throw it to you.
I think you've done a great job. I would say traditionally, when we've thought about BrandMuscle, we've really talked about the corporate solutions, that on the left-hand side, that navy-ish area. I think since you've come on board, we've really taken that lens of what are we doing on the affiliate side, and there's so much there. And even, I'm going to go back a slide a little bit, but if we think about these challenges, you're absolutely right. They're happening on the local affiliate side as well as corporate. Even, lack of quality content impacts both of those. And so thinking about them under that lens has been really, really helpful, and I think has opened up a lot of insights into how do we bring our ecosystem together to marry that strategic alignment between the two.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in one extra thing. I think the ecosystem is different for either side of the house too, right? So if you think about brand compliance, the ecosystem might be a digital asset management platform. It might be that it's stock photography. It might be that it's corporate photography, those kinds of things under brand. And on the other side, when you think about paid media, it might be relationships with Meta and Google and those kinds of things. So the ecosystem is much more broad than just one side of the house. And I think that that to me adds those extra complexities around that compliance piece. So, you know, it's an interesting dialogue we've had with some of our analyst relations friends on the Forrester side, and obviously with the Marketing AI Institute, to understand how this ecosystem plays together with AI as well. So I'll throw that over to you now.
100%. I think the takeaway as we move forward on this piece around the gray area with the ecosystem is artificial intelligence and compliance. From our purview, these things have to go hand in hand. So as we took this approach with BrandMuscle AI, we really looked at the opportunity, and that's what we're here to talk about, right? How is this revolutionizing marketing? And AI, as you know, Helen, as a corporate marketer, AI is not new to marketing. We've been really seeing this over the past 12 months grow exponentially month over month. And the data's there. We see that 82% of marketers feel that AI content is just as good, if not better, than that's created by humans. You know, 55% are really positive that it's going to greatly enhance the marketing efforts. And then my favorite one is really this 42% that believe if AI can take over the day-to-day marketing tasks, it leaves the high-level strategic planning and decision-making to humans. And even when we take the perspective of local, I think what we see is that, you know, corporate marketers, they're not often hyper-local. I love how you touch on that. They're not hyper-local marketers. If you think of the Edward Jones example, you know, Edward Jones has advisors all over the place, and corporate can't be experts of every community that they're in. But this is where AI can help with that, and it leaves the opportunity for the affiliates to focus on what they want, which is ultimately to sell.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would say, James, is that like even myself, like I worked at I've worked in companies that have had AI, and it hasn't been accessible for people like me. It's been algorithms in the back of the house. And so this open source concept of ChatGPT and DALL-E and those kinds of things have made it very accessible, yet frightening, because there is no governance from the government at the moment too. So we've got the compliance piece from our clients, but we've got this compliance piece of what is the real world happening. And at some stage, I think some organization is going to come out with like a GDPR for AI at some stage. But you know, for the moment, we're trying to be as cautious as possible to protect some of the things that we have in place, like data retention and protection of trademarks and those kinds of things, as we built this product out as well. And I think that at the end of the day, for most marketers, is something to be considered, and you need to partner with people who understand that, as opposed to just going rogue by yourself at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I'd say from our solution that really intros it well is that from just the back-end algorithms that you speak of, but there are also other tools that are great tools out there, like a Jasper or a Writer. All these are incredible marketing related tools, but they're missing really what you're hinting there is the compliance piece, right? So when we sat down and said, where do we want to take AI? Where do we see it benefiting both corporate and local? It's through generative AI, of course, you know, machine learning recommendations and AI assisted workflows. And I know what you're all thinking, James and Helen, there are point solutions that exist to do this today. Again, the Jaspers, the Writers, they're there. But again, what they're missing is that foundation of compliance. And this is really what BrandMuscle is built on. We had a webinar a couple of weeks back under the premise of Defenders of Compliance. That really is who BrandMuscle is. And so as we look to build these solutions and tools and offer them up to both corporate marketers as well as those local affiliates, it has to be compliant, because honestly, that's what keeps a lot of us up at night is the marketing at the local level brand compliant? Is it legal compliant? Is it pricing compliant? All of these complexities is what I assume keeps, if it keeps me up, Helen, I know it keeps CMOs like yourself up.
Yeah, and I think you've had some conversations with some of our clients as early adopters, and I thought the big aha for me was Bobcat, which is a well-known construction equipment manufacturer, and I never really thought about it, is like the safety component is compliance, right? So having somebody generate a picture or take a photo shoot with a person sitting on the tire is a no-no. Standing in the way of the machinery is a no-no because they are about safety. That is their compliance component. And so how do you train the machines to do that? Or do you use parts of the compliance components that we have and then supplement them in different ways in the workflow or the generative AI or even the recommendations? And we'll show you some of those examples. We've been working on this for a long time. I think the other thing, James, that we haven't really touched on is the idea of being good prompters and editors and people fearing that they're going to lose their jobs, right? To your point on the earlier slide, I think jobs might change, but you still have to be a good prompter by understanding the compliance by which you have to play in order to get the right output and be able to evaluate the output from the machines at the end of the day. So I'll let you continue that conversation.
The prompt engineering is amazing to me because we're seeing such an influx. You can go on LinkedIn, you can search for people with job titles of prompt engineers, prompt experts, etc. And you're seeing it again exponentially grow week over week as this becomes such a need with organizations. And even with our own solutions that we're looking at here from the generative perspective, whether it's blog posts, review responses, testimonials, obviously we're working with our internal teams to make sure that they're prompt experts, but I think that the difference there is that we can't expect a local marketer to be a prompt expert, right? So how do we ensure that the solutions there are easy input based that's going to give the output that's compliant, right? And so we'll show examples of these. Obviously, we want you all to understand how we're looking at this approach and what we're looking to take out of this. But what you'll really notice from the generative AI space for BrandMuscle is that we're looking at things that are really difficult for corporate marketers to scale at that local affiliate level today. And we'll talk a little bit more about that.
So James, can we just talk a little bit about review responses? Because I'm not sure that the whole audience would understand what that means. I think it's very specific for local. I don't think that it's that specific. It might be for Glassdoor, but it's not for your local business.
Correct. If you don't mind, let me pause you there. Let me hold you on that one, and I'll show you an example of it. How about that?
Okay, got it.
All right, cool. On the recommendation side, there's tons of things that we can do here, but knowing the affiliates, we want them to market the right tactics to the right channels at the right time. So how do we ensure that they're doing that? We'll give a little bit more examples there too. And then finally, on the AI assisted workflows, we're looking at things like ingesting the brand guidelines, co-op guidelines, as Helen mentioned, for funds, understanding brand voice, and I'll talk more about this as well, content approvals, in-flight optimization, just Q&A, all of these different touch points. And what you'll see through some of these examples is it really doesn't just fit under one. You'll see a lot of the brand voice is going to fit under AI system workflows as well as generative AI and somewhat on recommendations. But the purpose of this is to ensure throughout all of these that we're compliant 100% of the time.
Yeah, so just quick, right? So if you're thinking an affiliate, it could be that we're advertising ABC brand and local James Morse independent, and those have to go into logo lockup. That is a brand guideline that has to be compliant every time it renders in whatever form it renders. And so those are kinds of things that we worry about in terms of how compliance plays into our solutions.
Well, and why Helen says we worry about it is because we see the bad versions, right? We see them all too often where we get designs submitted for us to execute on their behalf, and they're just absolutely not compliant whatsoever. You'll see upwards of 10 to 20 issues with compliance, and that could be, Helen, you mentioned trademarks earlier, it could be brand, it's all across the board. We see it way too often, and that's where...
Okay, now you got tacos on the plate. I'm gonna say Taco Tuesday is trademarked, don't use it unless you own it.
Right. So these are These are the little things that our team knows so well. And I'm glad you talked about Taco Tuesday, because that does well for this. Is that what a lot of people don't know about BrandMuscle is we have a creative design team that works more so in the hospitality space for our beverage alcohol clients. And if you think about what they're working to do is for on-premise locations and off-prem as well, where you're consuming the alcohol, so bars and restaurants. So each bar and restaurant wants their advertising to be unique. They don't want to look like the bar down the street. So our team generates a lot of custom designs, and again, making sure that they're compliant. So we're not saying Taco Tuesday, even though the bar or restaurant may want to. And as we think about generative AI and being able to create imagery, we asked our creative design team to utilize the tools out there to create imagery. Does it help them? So I'll say this, is they said 50% of the time it worked really, really well. The other 50% of the time it had issues. But one of the examples is this: a realistic vector image of tacos on a white plate with a colorful background. The image worked really well. We placed this on an ad, and the restaurant we were building this on approved this. They thought this
Okay,
worked
can I
out
just
really
ask a
well.
question? So this was the output that we got with that prompt.
Correct. This was the
Okay,
output.
got it.
Now you had mentioned before prompt engineering, prompt design, all these things. This is where our team has worked very diligently to understand the inputs necessary to get the output they're looking for. And we asked them to go crazy. And these are this is just a small sample of the examples that we got out of it for realistic use cases that were coming in from bars and restaurants. There are beverage alcohol distributors. Now, the other piece of this is that a lot of this can be edited. So really, when we think of the value here, is that it's saving a lot of time and ultimately money too, which we'll talk about. But on the right-hand side at the bottom there, it's my favorite is chicken tenders. Now, I don't love the ketchup piece. So our designers can go in and erase the ketchup and then prompt it for ranch without having to create from scratch. Sorry, Helen, you're gonna say something.
No, I think the observation here is that on the alcohol side, that those are single concept drinks too,
Yes.
right? And so when you say 50% right, can you explain what the challenges might have been? This is again a compliance issue though, right?
This can be a compliance issue, 100%. So the U.S. market's really interesting. We have tons of glassware. My wife is a good example of the problems of why we have a lot of glassware. We have so many different options for drinks. Now you could ask it to produce a beer and a martini next to each other. The issue is it might put the martini in the beer glass and the beer in the martini glass, or heck, it may even put the beer in a wine glass. The correlation between what you're looking for needs very specific prompting. And again, that's where our team is trained very diligently to know how to do that output. And AI is learning, it's improving. We're training these models to be more specific. You're absolutely right. You see single drink models here where even in the bottom middle there, it looks like a glass of whiskey with an ice cube or two. If you look closely at that, that could even be perceived to be a shot glass, right? So
Yes.
there is a little bit of differences there that we still
And
see.
it could be moonshine in a
It
shot
could
glass.
it could be moonshine in a
Not that
shot
I've
glass.
had that experience, but anyway.
And the editing piece is what saves a lot of time. And really what this has helped our team with is not having to go out and find stock photography. That when we do this much creative design at scale and needing to be unique, finding the stock photography can be very much the arduous side of that work. So being able to just go into tools and prompt it correctly to get that output has been very rewarding for us.
James, do you know the number of jobs that were done in 22 by the creative services team? I think it was like almost 200,000 jobs
It's
in
yes,
365 days. So you can
it's
imagine the number of people that are involved in that and the time that it takes. Then it's versioning on top of that. And so AI may speed up that process, but you will still need those people involved in the development of the work.
yes, which is really helpful too from an AI perspective, because a lot of those requests come in 11th hour, and no fault of anyone's. It's that, St. Patrick's Day is 3 days away and you realize, oh my gosh, I don't have any marketing because I'm not a marketer at the local level, right? So how can we help facilitate and speed that up and help with those rush jobs? This has definitely helped the team get faster with this and ultimately get these things out to market as quickly as possible. Now, obviously, when the team was playing around with this gave us a ton of ideas, which is really what's led to the generative AI piece and what's brought to us BrandMuscle AI. So I asked you to hold earlier, Helen, on Review responses, that's the second example I want to hit on here, but you get an idea of what our team has built out. You also talked earlier about just speed that we're doing this. You know, a lot of these, you see 10 examples here. By 2 weeks from now, we're going to see 20 examples. The team is so quick in outputting these based off of those needs of the clients that we have in private beta and the feedback that we're getting of, hey, BrandMuscle, can AI do this? And how can we apply it to our business? And that's where we're building a lot of these use cases. The first one I want to talk about is social media. It's probably one of the most common ones that we hear about, which is how do I just create the content? I have the imagery usually from corporate, but how do I create this? So a good example is the Masters tournament this weekend. We want people to come watch at Flannery's Pub in downtown Cleveland. It's my favorite pub downtown. The channel is just coming through. We want to post on Twitter, and it's an event, right? Very simple inputs that we're asking for the user, and then having AI output that of, you know, come watch the Masters. And here's where compliance gets into place. There's certain language that we want to make sure that is always echoed in the commentary that's coming out. There may be hashtags that you always want from a corporate level to be done at the local level. This is where on the back end we can train the AI to be very specific to your corporate brand when the local entity and affiliates coming in and doing this.
Can I just stop you for a second? I want to make sure that people don't think that we're pulling a fast one here by just showing you screenshots. We didn't want you to sit through James typing and James cutting and pasting over in our live environment. So if you would like to see a live show, reach out to one of us, we'll make it happen. It is real. I have been using it for the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks for corporate marketing here at BrandMuscle. Our team is trying it. We're part of the alpha with the team because we're actually representing the corporate side of the house, even though we only do it in the local market here in the United States. But the idea of customization and regionality is part of our play as well. And segmentation too, right? Anyway.
And segmentation. And I want to call attention to brand voice here. So if you look at tone of voice on the left-hand side there, you see brand voice gray coming soon. This is something that came directly from Helen and the marketing team at BrandMuscle was, how do we output that content with that brand voice? So again, the language that your brand uses, keywords, sentiment even, and having it so that corporate can come in and just input with simple prompts. Now, obviously, if you have marketing content already that we can ingest, we can learn what that brand voice is. But even if you change brand voice, which is something Helen was working on when she came in, how do we do it without content? And this is a big differentiator for us, again, versus those point solutions, is how can you come in and make sure that the local affiliate is creating content that still resonated with your brand voice.
And or your persona.
And or your persona, it's a good example. Okay, review responses. So this is something that we see at the local level quite often. But I think you use the example, Helen, of Glassdoor. Absolutely works the exact same way, right? You get some sort of review, whether negative or positive, and you want to respond to it. We always say this, you want to respond to all reviews to build that loyalty within the customer audience that you're going after. Now, there are review response tools out there, don't get me wrong, but what we hear from our corporate clients is they're too expensive. And is it really something out of the MarTech stack that they're looking at that they want to pay for the local affiliates? Now, we believe it's something that they should have access to. And how do we create unique content? So again, here, very similar, but we've got the example of Lauren Miller came in to John's Hardware last week, had a horrible experience. She stood in front of wrenches for 15 minutes. No one asked her for help, if they could help. When she left, she saw 3 employees. Like, this is a bad review. It's a scathing review for a local hardware store. She ranked it 1, it came through from Google. We need to respond to this. But you also want to make sure that you're responding in a brand compliant way and you're hitting on the empathy and issues that she experienced. So how do we address that? And being able to give them a tool to automatically output that. What you'll notice here is it really does make sure that they're addressing Lauren directly and the experience she had, giving Lauren someone to reach out to. But even on top of that, there are some editing tools. So if we're in here and we say, you know what, we don't want it to go to John, let's send this to Helen at johnshardware.com, we can go ahead and redo that and copy that out and paste it back to Google, wherever. And then where we're going with this is integrating directly. You saw that on the Twitter post. I can push it to Twitter directly. This is where we're working with our clients to understand what channels are most important to them. Helen, any feedback?
Yeah, I think the key here is that you can change the tone too, right? So if you want it to be formal, if it's a serious, claim by somebody that might result in a lawsuit, you might want to increase the formality of by which you're talking, as opposed to, she didn't get a great experience here. I do think this is a little sexist. I wouldn't say that so badly, but that's her opinion, right?
Sure.
And so, it allows them to address it in a professional manner, in a way that the recipient of that message would feel like they had been heard. And that, at the end of the day, is why you do review responses.
100%. The last BrandMuscle AI example I want to show you here is the script generator. We keep hearing about this, is that especially with YouTube and TikTok, there's a hunger at the local level to be able to create this content, but corporate isn't necessarily comfortable with it. A lot of that's just because they can't scale that type of content. Again, for it to be unique, if you have 20,000 agents in the field, you can't possibly create 20,000 unique versions of a script. This is where AI is able to scale this very easily. I'm going to go back to Flannery's. So they're having a bourbon tasting on June 3rd. It's an announcement. The channel's TikTok. The length of the script, let's just do 30 seconds. And key points that we want to hit on. Again, I'm going to keep tone of voices informal. If I wanted intro text, I could. I don't for this one. I want BrandMuscle AI to create all of this for me. So again, 30 seconds, normal pace script that they can do. They can edit this as they want. So one of the things I will call out that we missed on this one was the call to sign up. It didn't understand that the call for a phone call was there. So for this, we've trained the AI to notice that in the future, to know that we're looking for a phone call if they say call to sign up or call to any action there. But a very good version of a script, and this is helping our current clients in our beta be able to give these types of scripts, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it may be, to their affiliates to see how they're utilizing these going forward.
Well, and what I like about this, James, actually, from my perspective, is as I think about video creation for corporate, right, is that I can actually have that script in front of me while I'm actually recording, and it's available for me, right in front of my face. So I love this. I'm actually like light bulbs are going off in my head. I hadn't seen this one until today. That's the speed by which things are happening. We talked about it 2 days ago before I went into a board meeting, but I hadn't seen this one. And I really like this one for video creation, whether that's in a specific app or whether it's hosted in Vimeo or Vidyard or wherever, as a corporate marketer. I do think, though, that the opportunity for corporate to use this to provide the scripts to the local affiliate where they can actually put in their names as well is another way that this could be done, for tailoring on a national promotion that supports whatever campaign they're running at the national level or the DA or whatever.
That's great feedback. Yeah, this is the reason this is Sunday. This is one that came out from one of our clients who had this problem. So we'll keep talking about this, but a lot of these ideas that we're bringing to market are coming from the voice of our customers. So again, if you have good ideas coming out of this, please don't hesitate to let us know. This is something that we want to make sure that we're building that's going to drive that type of value to both corporate and the affiliates. The last one I want to talk about today is in-flight optimization. And this has been a big initiative for us. And as we think about generative AI as well as those AI assisted workflows, a lot of times I think we all get ads. We've experienced digital ads that just don't hit home enough, right? There's no contextual relevance here. And we saw a huge opportunity for this. So the example I want to start with is, do you have the right auto insurance? So
Hang on, before you go anywhere, we did not use any client examples specifically. We're trying to be client agnostic. So this is our creative team coming up with a really quick concept for this webinar. I just want to point that out.
Good point, excellent point. We took an evergreen image for auto insurance, but really what happens if it's raining in Jacksonville? You need a contextually relevant ad. Do you have the right auto insurance for today's slick roads? So what you'll notice we're able to do with AI here is both change that headline, again, making sure it stays in compliance of our corporate brand, as well as the imagery. And Helen, you used the example of Bobcat earlier, where they have image compliance. So even if you don't have, even if you're not comfortable with using AI to create imagery at this time, you can still feed those images. We can tag them appropriately, so we're serving them up in these different use cases while still creating the headline or message. If you are comfortable, we can have the images created. So if you're not in a highly regulated, compliant industry, this is where you can utilize AI on both sides. So again, we see this with rain, but you may say, James, I live in Juneau, Alaska, it's snowing still. You should get a different type of ad here. Do you have the right auto insurance for today's icy roads? This is where we can use third-party data. It doesn't have to be weather. We're using weather today just because it's something we can all relate to. Everyone on this webinar probably has different weather outside, but these are the types of ads that you should be receiving to make sure that it's contextually relevant based off the product or service that you're being marketed for.
Well, and I think the thing that's missing off these ads, to be really clear, is the dynamic feeding of the compliance rules for that agent and the products that they're selling, right? So there are T's and C's, or terms and conditions, that are listed at the bottom. So, you know, this looks like a Susie Stone, I'll call her. She is licensed in Juneau, and she was the same image in Jacksonville. So I'm not sure that that's the right situation, but like, let's say that this is Susie Stone in Juneau, and she is licensed to sell certain auto policies. So that would all be listed below that as well. That is the other part of it.
Great point, great point. If Susie Stone's not licensed to sell home insurance, you're not gonna see the home insurance ad. This is where it's both, hitting on a great point, it's both the imagery, the messaging, the layout, but as well as the localization, that hyper localization that's happening with these types of ads. And we're doing the hyper localization. We've been doing it for years in paid media. The difference here is how we can utilize AI to facilitate that, and not just with working media budgets that's out there and, you know, moving that across tactics, but how can you make sure that you're getting that custom message?
Yeah, and Susie Stone in Alaska is licensed differently in Alaska than Susie Stone in Florida, right? So let's say she has 2 locations, and so the licensing language has to change as well for her,
Yeah,
based on where the policy is being shown to the audience.
100%. You're absolutely right. Let's use a different example that's a little bit less location compliant, and let's talk about a bistro and bar. So going back to a little bit of that hospitality side of our business. So happy hour special 3 to 6. Good imagery here. You know, again, not a specific location. Our graphic creative services team came up with this, but same thing. Maybe I'm in Philadelphia and it's cold. So I should probably get something that's warm up with happy hour specials. And again, imagery that relates to that warm up feel. But later that day, or, you know, 2 days from now, it could be the fact that it's warmer in Philadelphia and I want to drive them to a happy hour special. Same location, same type of messaging, which is happy hour specials, but very different imagery and headline that's associated with that, again, based off of weather data. So how can, basically taking BrandMuscle AI and changing this mid-flight based off of all these external factors. It doesn't just have to be weather, it could be foot traffic, you could be seeing leakage to a competitor. How can we input that data and make sure that you change your campaign from an evergreen to a competitive conquesting campaign? All of these types of messages should be contextually relevant.
Yeah, and the compliance on this is whether that location has a patio or not, right? So as an example, those are the things that we know based on the data that we have as part of our compliance messaging and management and regulatory and all those other things, that allows us to serve this up. I think the other thing that I would say is that this could have been used through a co-op fund as well that says this can be optimized, be at 100 and billed back or earn paid back at 100% because it is using the patio and or it's using the right happy hour specials that are sponsored by whoever the beverage supplier is.
100%. That leads well to the question I have here, which is, what type of market disruption are we looking at? I want to hark back to the 42% of marketers believe that, again, if AI took over those day-to-day operations, they can focus on strategy. We see local being able to focus on sales, what they're really passionate about. My question to you, Helen, is do you see distributed marketing, that execution, transitioning back to being managed by corporate potentially?
I think there's this inflection point that's happening, right? And I only do marketing with BrandMuscle in the United States. So I think of us as not having a field per se. I have segmentation and all those other things and layers in that. But if I was into other markets, like say I was in Asia Pac or EMEA, I think that the ability to do more field marketing from corporate would be controlled more by corporate because of the scalability here. I do think, however, there will be some field play in that because I don't know the nuances of whether there's a Berlin event happening if it's a German market that I'm looking at. But I do think that the level of effort will go more towards corporate as we talk about B2B to channel marketing. And therefore you might see some compression on things like co-op funds, that the co-op funds that are in our Fortune 100 customers will start to shrink because corporate will take over more responsibility of creating and distributing at the hyper local level that we deal with today. I think part of that is because that allows the person who is in the market running their local insurance agency or running their local Ace hardware or their local Bobcat or whatever store it is, it allows them to run the business where marketing is probably less than 10% of their responsibilities at the end of the day.
Yeah, I like that. I think that approach is right, especially because we see, going back to the co-op fund example, we see so much of it go unutilized each year. And I think a lot of that is because marketers or local affiliates are only spending less than 10% on marketing. So these funds go forgotten about. So how can we better utilize them, reinvest them in more strategic and targeted marketing, which clearly we're seeing AI can accomplish.
Yeah, and I think it's also about brand compliance at the end of the day, right? Like the fiduciary, the legal, the trademark, the patent offices, the stocks, the fonts, the branding, etc. Corporate really wants to control that. I think where they've struggled is they want, like most CMOs in Fortune 100s, have big marketing budgets that are aimed at brand awareness and not driving leads to the local store. And I think that tension is starting to maybe disrupted by AI, that they can actually infiltrate those national campaigns more specifically down to the local level at scale. And so it'll be interesting to watch. I'm not I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did. I'd put some money in some stock or something like that. But I do think that there is this continued tension as to whether to decentralize or centralize the local market activation, let's call it that, to drive those transactions, which at the end of the day, corporate takes credit for, which is revenue growth, right? It's sold by the local SMB, they make money, but at the end of the day, it's all about whatever is happening at the corporate brand. So
100%. Well, I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. We had a couple of questions come through before this session, which was nice. It gave us a little bit of opportunity to think about them. For any questions that are coming through too, we'll be sure to follow up with you one-on-one to address those, and we can even send those out to the entire group so that you see the full responses. One question that came through specifically, Helen, was directed towards you, which is, Helen, as a CMO, what's the biggest value that you see AI bringing to corporate?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's about time and efficiencies and spending those where you can get the most bang for your buck. So if you're spending time thinking and pontificating about how to even get started on something, I think that the prompt piece is the key. But I think you and I went through an experiment the other day writing a bio for somebody, and we had one for somebody and it came out way better and more up to date. That was really good English, way better. I think for me, from a corporate perspective, two things. One is if I can get the team aligned on brand guidelines, brand persona, and that they can be efficient in creating multi-threaded assets across multi-channel, then and more quickly to drive campaign response, then I think that's the benefit. What I don't know is how we're going to measure the effectiveness of that comparatively to what we're doing today. is the human interaction gonna, is the human created piece gonna generate more demand? That's gonna be a longer tail. But at the end of the day, and not just demand, and I know I'm talking as a CMO, but not just demand, but like brand awareness and retention and all those other things, full customer life cycle. I think the opportunity is that those who build products in the AI space that address myriad use cases for marketers, whether corporate or field or local to the independent, those are the companies that will win. It can't be a point solution for the small business owner. It has to be one place to get everything.
I love that. I mean, it validates what we're doing. And I think when you came in and joined BrandMuscle, it was one of our first questions for you. And I agree with you. I think that that's something that we're still going to see, even though this landscape's evolving so quickly. That's going to be the key to this. I want to call out.
Go ahead. I was going to just add on that, I've used it to create International Women's Day posts, which we didn't end up using, but I got the date wrong. And one of the cards we have is Q&A, and rather than having to go out to another browser to look on Google or Bing or whatever your search engine of choice is, I got to stay in the application and get the answer right there in real time. And so I think about it not just from an efficiency of creation, but an efficiency of process as well, is that I'm staying in one ecosystem to get everything that I need to do the work that I need to do.
It's great. I want to call one last question. We had 3 come in. We'll save the other one. We'll send it out as well. But this was interesting. How do you see AI enhancing print materials for on-prem and off-prem locations? So we can tell this is coming from hospitality, beverage, alc, but since we talked about digital examples of that in-flight optimization, we didn't want to not call out print. There's a lot of opportunities here, and Helen, cut me off if you have good ideas too for this, but it's twofold. Do you see you using templates? And we talked about this with the stock imagery, being able to input prompts to create the imagery that you want within that print collateral that's being used. And this could be menu based. This can be something that is a coaster. It can be really anything that you have there in a bar, restaurant, or even a liquor store. But also if you're doing the custom design piece. So it doesn't matter if you're on the supplier side or the distributor side, or even if you're on the actual account side within the market doing the marketing for your location, is that it can be digital or print. That's the best part about AI. It's just that there's less in-flight optimization, but a lot of that's on the front end of giving those recommendations based off of who your target persona is, the geography that you live in, what type of establishment are you doing this marketing for, and being able to build those recommendations in that imagery, the messaging, etc. And again, accepting it if you like it, editing it if you want, but not having to be a prompt engineer, but utilizing the tools to create that. Shouldn't matter what type of marketing collateral it is.
Yeah, and I would say, I think the difference on print is that there's a lot of versioning that goes on, right? So based on the marketplace or the restaurant or the brands that are involved in making that menu. And so I think the idea of in-flight optimization is a little bit different in that the versioning, and let's call it that for optimization purposes, right? The versioning is the same principle. It's in a different media, and that's just, I mean, in-flight paid media optimization, holy cow, that could be like crazy, like off the chain kind of stuff. Print, once you put ink on paper, it's kind of firm. So, but I think the way that the AI optimization can actually work is helping with that versioning at scale rather than one asset at a time in design, right? Like that's the way that I think about optimization in print.
Love that. And I think that echoes back to your previous comments about how do you stay within one ecosystem, how do you input prompts, get multiple variations and different tactics as an output. And we see that as something the team's actively working on. We should see in the coming weeks is creating all of those pieces that you're going to need within a campaign. You're absolutely right. It doesn't matter if it's a corporate campaign or that local campaign.
Yep. James, this has been fun. I love this conversation. You and I have had lots of these conversations, but the fact that we've actually recorded it, or we're doing a webinar with people, this gets me jazzed in the morning. I want to just shout out you and the team that's working on this from an innovation perspective. I think the conversation started mid-January, early January, and to produce what we've got 10 usable services that are available. We've built it such that it's built for SDK and API integrations for agencies and partners. And so if you are interested, and I'm doing the pitch now because that's my job, is to drive demand as one of my jobs. But if you're interested in learning more, reach out. I know that this will be sent out to people afterwards. And there will be some additional materials that we'll include with that, but we'd love to continue the conversations with folks if they're interested.
Thanks, Helen.
Thanks, James.
Bye, everyone.